Welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Collin Whitchurch, and it's time to begin our preseason divisional previews. In today's episode, we will dive into the American League East. As always, I'm joined by Action Network senior MLB analyst and writer Sean Zerillo. We're going to break down all 5 teams in the American League East. We're going to break down division value, win totals, player props, everything under the sun. Before we jump in, a little bit of housekeeping here. All our division previews will be available in your podcast feed. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be doing all 6 divisions. We are going to have long shot episodes. We're going to have player prop episodes. We already have our World Baseball Classic preview episode up now. Be sure to look out for that in your podcast feed. And we might have some more World Baseball Classic episodes. I'm not sure, depending over the next couple weeks as we get into that tournament as well. And we'll have an opening day preview and best bets as well once we get to opening day of the season. Then, once the season starts,
we have a WBC episode next Monday. We got a few built in. I think around when Team USA is playing. So yeah, yes. there's some on the schedule.
More WBC content, and as I said, the futures episode. We're recording this on Wednesday, March 4th. Tournament starts tonight, so a lot more World Baseball content, World Baseball Classic content on the way, and then. Once the MLB season begins, Payoff Pitch will have best bets for you every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday morning. We will be doing those live on Action Network's YouTube page. If you want to subscribe to our channel there too, again, youtube.com, the Action Network. Live MLB best bets every Monday, Tuesday, Friday. Myself, Sean Zerillo. You want Grant Neefer in there for some more dinger bets. We'll have Derek Carty mixed in along the way. Kyle Murray, Jim Turvey, all your favorite action experts giving out best bets all MLB season long. We are so excited. Finally, if you like what you hear, or if you don't, please go into your podcast app of choice. Give us a 5-star rating and review. We really appreciate all the feedback. Give us negative feedback. Give us positive feedback. Tell me I'm an idiot for betting against the Phillies in our NL East or something like that. I don't care what you say. Just give us 5 stars. This time of year really, really helps as we get this feed churning along for the start of MLB season. But that's enough preamble. Let's jump into the American League East. Again, we're going to go through all 5 teams. We will go in order of their odds to win the division. So we will start right at the very top with the New York Yankees. Their win total sitting at 90.5. Last year, 94-68. They tied for the AL East lead, lost the tiebreaker to the Blue Jays, and then lost in the ALDS to the Blue Jays, as you probably very well know. Their Pythagorean record last year was 97-65, so they did underachieve a little bit. Their public range this year sitting in the 88 to 90 range. A lot of consternation from Yankee fans this offseason, I feel like, because it seemed like a pretty quiet offseason by their standards. You know, they retained Cody Bellinger. They added Ryan Weathers in a trade from the Marlins, Angel Chivilli, kind of under the radar reliever they got from the Rockies, Paul DeYoung, Randall Grichuk, Rafael Montero, some minor league deals. They lost primarily out of the bullpen, Devin Williams and Luke Weaver, both headed across town to the Mets. Mark Leiter Jr. is no longer here. Ian Hamilton, Jonathan Loaizaga, Austin Slater. Trent Grisham among the retainees as well. Bellinger, Grisham, Ryan Yarbrough, Ahmed Rosario, still in pinstripes. So very much a similar looking team this year as we saw last year when they won 94 games. But they are the favorites here in the AL East, plus 180 to win the AL East title. Sean, where are you at in the Yankees this year?
Yeah, I bet Yankees under 92.5. No projections hide them higher than 90.5 from Oopsie. I make them 89.1, but they have come down from 92.5 to 90. Or 90.5. So there's no actionable value on their win total at this point. I would say the closest thing to being a bet is probably their odds to miss the playoffs, which I make about minus 250. I think you can get as high as plus 325, but the public projection is closer to plus 340 on that. So if you're looking at Fangraphs projection, which is plus 222, if you're looking at my own projection, which again is about plus 250, for the Yankees to miss the playoffs, you can justify a bet at about plus 325. I think, though, the value has mostly been taken out of the line with their win total moving down from 92.5 to 90. If you get an under 91, under 91.5, that manages to pop up before opening day. If you see a stale number, would still bet those. The best bet probably on the board for this team that I found based on my projections. Not necessarily that I fully agree with it, because I don't even think I staked it that aggressively. Cody Bellinger under 23 and a half home runs. His projection range is anywhere from 20 to 24, and specifically to Bellinger playing in Yankee Stadium, he did hit 18 of his 29 at home last year. So I do have some concern that projection systems are kind of missing his ability to pull balls into the short porch at Yankee Stadium. But his baseball savant metrics, his StatCast metrics, also kind of went in the tank last year. I want to pull them up just so I can compare bat speed and barrel rate, etc., year over year. So bat speed, 20th percentile for Bellinger last year. Barrel rate, 36th percentile. In 2024, bat speed, 13th percentile. Barrel rate, 32nd percentile. And then going back even a year to 2023, it's a very similar range, like 20th to 30th percentile in both metrics. So Bellinger just doesn't have, he's a good walk rate. He's a good strikeout rate. He puts the ball in play a ton. He's actually shaved a ton off of his strikeout rate relative to 3 years ago. He was striking out like 27% of the time with the Dodgers. He was down at 13% last year with the Yankees. So very impressive bat control for a guy who seemed like he was a free swinger and swinging through everything at one point in his career. But that 47 home run season is very far in the rearview mirror at this point. This is a guy who's turned into more of a contact-oriented run-producing machine as opposed to a pure slugger. So under 23 and a half homers, arguably the best bet on the board on this Yankees roster right now. I would bet that up to about minus 115 compared to a projection of 21.3. So Bellinger under home runs, Yankees under win total. Not a ton of bets in this division relative to the NL East or some other divisions that we will discuss. No value at the top of this division either in terms of the divisional odds. I make the Yankees plus 220 to win the AL East. I believe their best available odds are around plus 180. So as I said, the under shrinking has sort of moved me off of anything actionable here.
Yeah, the Yankees, as silly as it is to say, they're like the least interesting team in baseball from a betting perspective for me. I don't have, like, we talked about this in the NL East episode, which people can listen to either now or soon. We recorded it right before this about how my way to fade certain teams was to bet on other teams because I didn't necessarily see value in certain things. And that's kind of how I feel about the Yankees right now, where I am low on the Yankees, not necessarily from like a win total perspective. There are just other teams in the AL East I'll probably bet on as a kind of way of fading them. They got a career year out of Trent Grisham last year. Obviously, he accepted the qualifying offer. I don't know if they were happy that he accepted the qualifying offer or not. They still have Aaron Judge, and a healthy Aaron Judge goes a long way. But I feel like I wasn't quite with Yankee fans in terms of like being upset that they sat on their hands, because this is, they sat on their hands with a 94 win team. That's really good. It might not be Yankee standards, but that's a playoff team, right? The problem with sitting on their hands in this case is that you can see regression from so many potential spots, like setting aside Judge, who is maybe the best right-handed hitter ever. Trent Grisham, you can project regression from. Cody Bellinger, you already spoke about. Jazz Chisholm is amazing, and I think Jazz Chisholm's still going to be a really above-average player. Didn't he give some quote about like wanting to go 50-50 this year or something crazy like that?
Yeah, the contract year for him, so he's all in.
And he's still only 28, so really like him, but like Ryan McMahon is a nightmare fit for this ballpark, I feel like. They're still gonna platoon Paul Goldschmidt out there. Is Ben Rice gonna be as good as he was last year? We saw him kind of fall off after a hot start last year. And then their rotation, Max Fried is as consistent as they come, but like can he be as good or better than last year? It's hard to say. I actually am a really big fan of Ryan Weathers. I thought that was a really stealth under the radar acquisition. Really liked him in Miami last year. Cam Schlittler showed a ton of promise last year, but Luis Gil, Will Warren, how much are you going to get out of those guys? And then the depth behind them, there's a real question mark. When are they going to get back Is Carlos Rodon going to be ready for opening day? I'm not even sure. I think he's going to start the year on the injured list.
Yeah.
Garrett Cole, when's he going to be back? Obviously, no Clark Schmidt. Tommy John last year, or an internal brace, I guess it was.
Volpe's hurt too.
Yeah, Volpe's hurt, and maybe Jose Caballero's better than Anthony Volpe right now. But it's just a very boring team with not a lot of like super high end upside, and maybe sometimes teams like that go under the radar because as fans we put our eyeballs toward the teams that made the big upgrades. We'll talk about that with the Red Sox and Blue Jays. They made a lot of big splashy moves, and the Yankees just kind of sat there. The one thing I'll say, I don't have any super obvious bets to throw out on the Yankees. Obviously, Aaron Judge, he's like plus 185 for AL MVP. It's like betting Scotty Scheffler to win a golf tournament at this point. Like it's hard to get there. Their best pitching odds for Cy Young is Max Fried at 13-1. Don't love that. I was looking at the Bellinger home run. I logged a whole bunch of over-unders on individual player home runs. Bellinger, I don't know if it's still there, but when I was doing this, there was a 24.5 out there. If you like that under, if you cited 23.5, even better. Fangraphs has him at 24. Pacoda has him at 21. The Bad X has him at 21. At least that was as of when I pulled these numbers a couple weeks ago. So yeah, the Yankees, not a super interesting team. I would lean under with you on that.
I'd also say the bullpen is kind of like and the minor league depth that can add to this roster is also very meh. George Lombard Jr. maybe can fight his way onto the roster and play shortstop if Volpe continues to be awful.
Yeah, Spencer Jones, his prospect star has fallen quite a bit.
Yes.
I do like Elmer Rodriguez quite a bit. We're going to see him in the World Baseball Classic, I believe. I can't remember.
Yeah, he'll be pitching for Puerto Rico. They need him to give them some good innings as well.
Yeah. Elmer Rodriguez could be like this year's Schlittler in terms of a guy who comes up and kind of shoves. The star has fallen on Spencer Jones, like I mentioned. The star has fallen a lot on Jason Dominguez to the point where I think people are expecting him to start the year in the minors. Probably he's currently in the minors on Roster Resources. So yeah, it's the most meh 94 win team you can think of.
And they underachieved last year too. Their Pythag was 97. Their base runs was 100. So they underachieved by 3 to 6 wins by the advanced metrics, but everybody likes them to regress closer to 90 this year.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is I'll be picking and choosing my spots early in the season to back Ryan Weathers when he's on the mound. I'm not sure how it kind of sucks from a betting perspective that he went to a team that's going to be favored to win more often than not because he was kind of an under the radar guy I like to bet, but definitely going to be picking and choosing my spots to back him because he's a guy who showed a lot last year, and the Yankees targeting a guy like him also intrigues me where it's like, they see something, maybe they take him to the next level. I'm not saying
Yankees and Dodgers have the two biggest analytics staff in baseball. So somebody behind the scenes saw something. Also, to that point, I don't know if we fully discussed this, but if there is a salary cap instituted, you don't think the Yankees double the size of their analytics team? Like, come on, people. Think about where the money goes. It's just, we're arguing about the dumbest things. The floor, I get it. The ceiling is extremely dumb.
Yeah. We could have a whole separate podcast talking about the CBA negotiations. And
what are they going to, are the Pirates going to institute a rule where you can only spend so much on analytics to make the playing field even? Like, they're
already doing that in the minor leagues, kind of, with the shared data.
Uniform data. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Ryan Weathers' father, David Weathers, did spend 2 years in the Bronx.
Big fan of David Weathers. He was also Met as well.
Yeah, I was going to say Ryan has now pitched for. Did he pitch for the Padres before they traded him? He did. I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he
was awful with the Padres. When he came up with the Padres, it was like, this dude is a replacement level arm. Like, I don't think he's a big leaguer. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he gained velocity with the Marlins and then he became a trade asset. Now he seems like an under the radar, like maybe all-star selection, candidate if he pitches as well as we think he might. So,
David Weathers.
Just a reminder that baseball prospect progression is not linear. Some of these guys
not linear at all.
Substantial leaps.
Well, David Weathers never pitched for the Padres, but he spent 5 seasons in Florida and 2 seasons with the Yankees. So all Ryan Weathers needs to do to match his father is for the rest of his career also play for the Reds, Mets, Blue Jays, Cubs, Astros, and Guardians.
Hey, he's left-handed, man. You know what? If he gets later in his career, he may just start bouncing around at teams as a loogie. So I could see it.
And that was, well, his dad was a righty, but he spent 19 years in the majors. Like he's still earning that pension. All right.
David Weathers. Who's the other guy that the Mets had who I loved? He had the puka shell necklace. Oh man, this is gonna drive me nuts. I'll get the name. I'll come back to it.
Worrell?
No. Oh man, I'm gonna have to. I love those Mets teams. Like the teams you grew up with are always the teams you remember most fondly. Weathers was on the 2002-2003 Mets. I'm gonna have to find it. We'll come back to it. I'll get the name.
Yeah, we're one team into our AL East preview. Our producer Eddie is like, "Dude, come on, we're gonna go." We're
just remembering some guys immediately. It's fine.
Yeah, we're one team in. We're already remembering some guys. It's Ryan Weathers' fault for having a dad who is the ultimate remember some guys guy. Let's move on to the second favorite of the AL East. Also happens to be the defending American League champions, the Toronto Blue Jays, plus 250 to win the AL East. Their win total sitting at 88.5. Of course, they won 94 games last year, won the division, lost the World Series to the Dodgers. You may remember a little bit about that series. It was kind of a big deal. Their PyThag last year was 88-74. So, going into the playoffs and everything, they were a team that overachieved like crazy. Their public range this year, it ranges pretty drastically from 84 all the way down to 84 up to about 90. They had a very busy offseason. Everyone talks about, this is a slight digression as well. Everyone talks about the Dodgers spending. The Blue Jays have, if not the rich, they're right up there in terms of rich ownership with Rogers backing them, and they flexed their financial muscles this year. They said, we were a centimeter from winning the World Series last year. We're going to try it again. That's surprising to say for a team that didn't re-sign Bo Bichette. That was more a strategic thing than a financial thing. They brought in Dylan Cease. They brought in Kazuma Okamoto from Japan, Tyler Rogers, Cody Ponce, Jesus Sanchez in a trade with the Astros, Chase Lee as well. As we mentioned, they lost Bo Bichette. They lost Chris Bassett. Sir Anthony Dominguez said, I don't want to play for the Blue Jays anymore. I'm going to go chase rings and pitch for the Chicago White Sox. Joey Loperfido, they traded in that Jesus Sanchez deal. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Ty France are out the door in Toronto. I love this Blue Jays team. I think that they are on the cusp of being like, I don't want to be so hyperbolic as to say like, oh, they're going to be the Dodgers of the American League, but this team has financial might. Like, I don't think we understand how rich this ownership group is. They can spend like the Dodgers, and they're not quite yet, but they're a top 5 payroll team. They saw where that could get them last year, and now they're going all in. This is the team that we could see at the deadline make some big moves. If they're on the cusp, they want to get over the hump. Very, very deep team. They still have their core with guys like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., George Springer's not getting any younger, but he's still there. Up and comers like Addison Barger, and that rotation with Cease, Gaussman, the young Trey Yesovich back there. I'm really high on this Blue Jays team. Sean, where are you at?
Yeah, I think most projections are expecting more of a step back. I might be the highest in the market on them. I have them at 89.3. I might be the only projection above their listed win total. I am the highest in the market. The other highest, I believe, the lowest is 84.2 from Oopsie, but the average is around 86. They have a very, very high defensive floor, which in my model sort of raises them back to 89. I don't think other models factor in defense as aggressively as I do. They may not factor in pitch selection data, swing selection data like I do. And as a result, I think this team has an extremely high floor. They didn't even get as good as they planned to. They were going after both Cease and Kyle Tucker in the offseason. They would have signed Tucker if he wanted to go there. Yep. They were going after Juan Soto very aggressively. They were going after Shohei Ohtani very aggressively. I'm sure some people still think Ohtani's on a plane headed to Toronto. This team's really good. As you alluded to, I think they have the 3rd richest ownership group.
I think it might be behind the Dodgers and Mets. It might even be ahead of one of those.
But like when you separate the top 3 even out from everybody else, it's like the $1 billion club, and then you drop down. So there's like a separation in the top tier of spending relative to everybody else. So no, I'm not fading the Jays by any means, even though last year by PyThag, they overachieved by 5 wins. By base runs, they overachieved by 7 wins, 89 and 87 respectively, compared to an actual final total of 94. I think the biggest concern is probably the bullpen. Because we saw Jeff Hoffman. First off, Jeff Hoffman failed medicals previously, but they did sign Tyler Rogers, which should, again, boost their floor a little bit. They traded for Varland.
Tyler Rogers is really good.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
They just almost overused him in the postseason. But the back half of the bullpen is where it gets a little sketchy. Now they do have a lot of pitching depth too. And I think they just signed Max Scherzer. Who's going to join Shane Bieber and Bowden Francis on the IL. They signed Cody Ponce, who was like really Jacob DeGrom in Korea last year. They signed Kazuma Akamoto, who we actually discussed yesterday. I wasn't sure about his defensive quality. I ended up looking into it. He's apparently a very good defender who they plan on playing both third and first base.
Yeah, a lot of versatility. He'll give Vlad a chance to get off his feet and DH from time to time.
And Barger can move around. Schneider can move around. This is a very well-built baseball team. If their odds were a little bit better to win the division, I would be betting them to win the division. They're only about plus 270 at best. I make them 3-1. So I align with their playoff odds. I kind of align with their win total, even though I'm a little bit higher than it. I'm very pro Blue Jays. There's another team I prefer in the AL to get past them, a team who they faced last year. Now, the props I'm interested in betting here, because I don't really have any team bets here. I like a lot of their pitchers, and I like their top three pitchers. Yasevich, Gausman, Cease. I like them in different ways. Yasevich, like Jacob Marcy, who I discussed in the NL pod, was the other reason why I got out of my house and drove down to Atlantic City and put a bunch of money into terminals in order to get bets that I actually wanted, including his escalator props for 190Ks and 200Ks. I make his 190K prop about plus 260. I got 4-1 at two different books in New Jersey. I also make his 200K odds about plus 366. You can get 9-1. Now, there's been some talk about them potentially limiting his innings. They have signed these additional starting pitchers, which conceivably, you could see them limiting his innings with. Yasevich threw, I don't have the number exactly in front of me, but I believe between the minors and majors and postseason last year, he was already at 135 innings. Get to 160, get to 170. I'm good with that. You're getting to 200Ks because his strikeout rate, particularly at home where teams do not have the ability to prepare for him with the traject machine, should be substantial. And I think he's just kind of a unique pitcher who the first time he continues to face opponents is going to be really difficult. The second time, it's not going to be much easier, but it will get a little bit easier because of the unique arm angle, the over-the-top arm angle, the depth of the splitter that he gets. And I also think he's going to be slightly worse on the road than he is at home because teams are going to be able to prepare for him just a little bit easier. But he was still my best bet in terms of the strikeout milestone market. So the 190 plus for Yasevich, 3-1 or better is fine. The 200 plus for Yasevich, I would take 4-1 or better. I got, again, 4-1 and 9-1 respectively on those bets. But I also like Gausman in the same markets. Gausman, I make plus 380 for 200 plus Ks. You can get 5-1 there. I make him plus 690 for 210 Ks. You can get 9-1. I think I just went up to 210 on Gausman. And then Cease, I didn't bet in any milestone markets, but I did bet him for AL Cy Young. In my AL awards in my awards article that I ended up putting out, I kind of put probability graphs for all these pitchers. Dylan Cease had the widest distribution to the left and to the right.
Sense.
Yeah, like there's no bigger boomer bust pitcher than Dylan Cease. Yeah. Now, he got absolutely destroyed by BABIP luck last year. He got destroyed by, I think, home run fly ball luck. Like, Dylan Cease seems to be either extremely lucky or extremely unlucky from one season to the next. But I actually have some hope that the Jays are going to optimize him a little bit more now that they have their hands on him. They seem like a very analytics-forward organization. We've seen them develop a number of their players. I think there could be a player development aspect here that brings Dylan Cease up another level and ultimately probably makes him their number one by the end of the year. I think if there is a pitcher starting game one of the playoffs with their highest upside, I think it's Dylan Cease. I think he'll surpass Gausman and Yasevich by season's end. So I like the pitching quite a bit on this team. I bet a number of their pitchers from a prop perspective. Yasevich, Escalator is probably my favorite amongst those, but I think Cease is a really good Cy Young candidate at 40-1. You're probably going to need a Skubal injury. I mean, the same goes for NL Cy Young with Scenes, AL MVP with Judge, NL MVP with Ohtani. They all won last year. None of them got hurt. The probability that one of them gets hurt this year is higher than none of them get hurt. So I think you do have to take small shots in all those awards markets. And I think Cease is a really good boomer bust candidate, 40-1 to take a shot with.
Yeah. Cease is one of those signings where there are signings for orgs that you see, and with some of the orgs that you don't necessarily trust as much, where if they make a big signing, you're like, okay, they said this guy's good, we're going to throw him a bunch of money. And then there are orgs who, like the Dodgers, like the Yankees, like the Blue Jays are right there, where when they sign someone to big money, they say we see something specific in this guy, and that's
Rays
what
too, right? When the Rays sign somebody,
yes. Yeah. It's harder to give that
we'll get there
because they never sign anyone. But the Blue Jays giving that many years and that much money to Cease definitely raised an eyebrow. Where when we saw, Gaussman had already turned into an ace by the time he went to Toronto, but I still feel like Toronto kind of took him to the next level. They said, we can work with this guy. And he turned into, he's a guy who would finish in top 5 in Cy Young without winning one on a pretty regular basis. The interesting thing with Toronto, too, is they have, at least from a betting perspective and in the awards market, is they have essentially the top 2 AL Rookie of the Year candidates. It depends on the book. There's some variance there with like Carter Jensen and Kevin McGonigal and Munetaka Murakami, but Kazuma Okamoto and Trey Yesevich are essentially like co-favorites for AL Rookie of the Year. You mentioned how much you love Yesevich. Are his odds in the AL Rookie of the Year market just too low that you saw more value in the props and like couldn't get there for Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, always think about best ways to bet guys or best ways to bet teams. We'll talk about the Rays in a minute. The Rays are 3-1 to make the playoffs. I think there's another bet you can make that is a substantially better bet than that at much bigger odds. If Yesevich is going to win Rookie of the Year, does he not need 200 Ks, 190 Ks? And is 11-1 for 200 Ks not basically the same odds or better odds than him winning Rookie of the Year? So always look for the most optimal way to bet things. If the odds are very close on a guy needing to achieve a certain statistical milestone, in order to win an award, I'm always going to bet the milestone because it's easier to achieve that and also garner the votes and hope that somebody else didn't outperform you. So yeah, it's just purely an odds relative to another market where I found more value betting them.
We talk about parlaying awards and how a lot of sports books don't really let you do that. I don't have the math in front of me, but you mentioned Cease for Cy Young and your love for Yesevich. I did see one book kind of does pre-built parlays, and you can do Cease, Cy Young, Yesevich Rookie of the Year at 125-1. That kind of caught
all Blue Jays pitching awards parlay. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. There's a bunch of those. I mean, you can bet
Skeens and Chandler, NL.
Skeens and Chandler 50-1. Skeens and Griffin is 11-1. That's the lowest of these pre-built parlays. Yeah. And then Skubal McGonigal's 27-1.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's not bad. Honestly, I might like that one the most of them because McGonigal's fighting his way into that opening day roster. My biggest issue was he's like 9-1. There's no guarantee if he starts on opening day. So I have Skubal as a Cy Young bet. We'll talk about it when we get the AL Central. Skubal's my AL Cy Young bet. So I'm right there with McGonigal. I think I projected him about 9-1. The odds were just 9-1, and I wanted to make sure he's up on opening day, and I can't get better odds because he gets sent down. So yeah, McGonigal Skubal might be the best combo.
Yeah, your Mets, Freddie and McLean is 100-1 for what it's worth.
No thanks. I don't think Freddie gets the innings.
Yeah, but just to wrap up the Blue Jays here a little bit, I'm betting they're over on their win total. I see more value in that than I do the AL East title, just because the AL East is so strong. Yeah. This could be. I mean, we saw last year a team won 94 games in the AL East and didn't win the division. So. I would rather just bet the over on their win total. I think it's too low at 88.5. I would be shocked if this team doesn't win 90 games. So that's probably, it's one of my favorite bets on this pod for sure, is the over on the Blue Jays win total, because I'm that high on them. And again, for some of the stuff that's harder for the projections to quantify, is this is a team that we get to July and they've got a hole. They're going to do everything they can to fill it.
I said they're my likeliest team to add pieces in season, and I haven't moved off of that opinion. They're all in. They're win now.
Yeah. All right. So we like the Blue Jays. Let's move to the Boston Red Sox, who had a really interesting offseason. They are plus 320 to win the AL East. Win total of 87.5. Last year they won 89 games, lost in the AL wildcard round to the Yankees. Their Pythag was 92 wins, so they did underachieve. Public range is pretty wide on the Red Sox as well. It looks like 81 to 89 wins. I'm not sure who has that 81 out there, but that's kind of crazy to me. They added
Pacoda 81.8 for Pacoda. Yeah,
my Pacoda boys. I'm glad DeBundo's not on this podcast. If you listen to our NL East podcast for that reference, very interesting on the Red Sox. They added Ranger Suarez, Wilson Contreras, Sonny Gray, Johan Oviedo, Caleb Durbin, Andrew Monasterio, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Brendan Rodgers, I think, on a minor league deal. They lost, obviously, Alex Bregman. They lost podcast favorite Dick Fitz in the trade that brought them Sonny Gray, Brandon Clark, Hunter Dobbins, Kyle Harrison, David Hamilton, Jordan Hicks, Steven Matz, Dustin May, Rob Refsnyder, Scrabble Garcia, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his first name, Liam Hendricks, Nathaniel Lowe. A lot of movement on the Red Sox roster this year. I was really high on Boston last year. I kept betting on them to make the playoffs over and over again. It did ultimately pay off in the end. It seems like a really high variance team. Adding Suarez and Gray to that rotation behind Crochet gives them a higher floor, I feel like, on the rotation, because the rotation was kind of what gave them fits last year. Get a full year out of Roman Anthony. We'll see what they get out of some of their other prospects, Marcelo Meyer, if they bring Christian Campbell back up this year. I'm a big fan of Ceddanne Rafaela, Wilyer Abreu. I'll be curious what you think about their outfield defense, because Abreu's really good. Duran, I guess, is going to be DHing this year. Rafaela's really good. Where are you at on the Red Sox?
Yeah, I want to like this team more, but the injury risk with Crochet and Suarez in particular is pretty substantial. Crochet last year was the first year he's thrown a workload as much as he did. Maybe the Red Sox, have him on a new training regimen to keep him healthy, but a guy who didn't throw a ton of innings in college, had a number of injuries in the minor leagues, finally saw him extend out to a full workload, finished second in Cy Young voting. I believe he won the strikeout total, which we bet on.
Yeah.
But the probability that, and he's made 32 starts for consecutive years, so taking the ball for 2 straight years, never broken down, but the probability that he takes the ball for 32 starts for a 3rd consecutive year is not 100%, and compared to most pitchers is a bit lower than other top arms just because of the injury history. But adding Suarez, who, again, not a guy who seems to stay healthy for more than 20 starts, adding Sonny Gray, who's more of a high floor guy, certainly gives them a lot more rotation depth. Just you look at the back half of the lineup, and it's like, it's not scary. The back half of the lineup just isn't scary. Durbin, Rafaela, Marcelo Meyer, Carlos Narvaez. Once you get past Worley or Abreu, I stop worrying about the bats at the bottom half of the lineup. So I don't really know what to think about this team in general. I kind of align with their win total. I'm at 87.2. Their win total is 87.5. I'm a little bit higher than the projection market, which is closer to 86 in general. But as you mentioned, there's a big range all the way from 81.8 from Pacoda to 89 from Davenport. So I'm on the higher end, but I still don't show value on this team. I make their divisional odds plus 318. You can get as high as plus 325. So very, very, very minuscule edge on the Red Sox to win the division. Not enough for me to bet it. My favorite bets here, Jarren Duran, 150 plus hits. Jarren Duran, 160 plus hits. I make those odds plus 154 and 300 respectively. They're giving you plus 195 and plus 350. Projects for 144 hits. Cleared these easily 2 years ago. The biggest issue is the platoon risk, because he has a career 70 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. But I don't really see him getting platooned out. I think the bigger risk is him getting traded to a different team who ends up slotting him further down in the lineup. But I mean, he's slated to hit 3rd against left or right-handed pitching. I believe the platoon lineup has him 6th against left-handed pitching. So he's not leading off anymore, but the skill level and the talent and the speed, which raises his floor in terms of his batting average on balls in play, which last year was 326, but he's at 340 for his career. He had 345 in 2024 when he posted 191 hits. He still got to 159 last season. in 157 games, and you're getting nice plus money prices on Duran clear 150 and to get to 160 again. So my favorite bets on this team, certainly Duran's hits leader props. I also do have a K milestone prop though on Sonny Gray to get to 200 plus at about plus 330. I make that closer to plus 280, but the Duran hits escalator props, the 150 plus, 160 plus, among my favorite in that category. I think those are really solid bets considering his lineup place, his talent, and even if he gets traded, it doesn't really affect your bet. It's not like you're betting him for league hits leader or to get 150 hits in the American League. It doesn't matter where he goes. And if he gets traded somewhere else, it's honestly likelier to be for a team that wants him to lead off, like the Padres, as opposed to a team that wants to hit him third.
I want to see him in my fantasy trade. Well, this was before the Red Sox upgraded the rotation a little bit, but I wanted to see him in Kansas City, maybe like a Duran for Seth Lugo swap there. And I want for the hits leader, that would be great because Duran is a doubles and triples machine, and Kansas City is like the best ballpark for those type of hits. So
he's exactly the type of player the Royals need to make me think they're a little bit more serious as well.
Yeah, they need outfield help, and it would be a funny corollary. He'd be following the Andrew Benintendi path essentially from Boston.
I just don't know what prospects they really have for him. I feel like their minor league system is not great.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking like major league from help both sides. I don't know. I don't think Kansas City just signed Lugo to an extension.
I remember somebody seeing like a Noah Cameron.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
For Duran kind of exchange at some point, which that
from a service time perspective and cost standpoint, that makes more sense too.
Yeah, absolutely. But I could see something like that's a mutually beneficial trade potentially for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I like the Red Sox. I can't get there at any of the numbers I'm seeing. Like I like them to make the playoffs. I don't think I like them at minus 170 to make the playoffs. If it was closer to a little bit better than a coin flip, I might bet that. The one prop I really like, and I'll be curious your thoughts. I'm on Roman Anthony under 21.5 home runs this year.
Yep.
Most projection systems have him hitting around 18 or 19. He hit 8 in a little less than half a season last year in 71 games. 2024, his fullest season as a minor leaguer, he hit 18 in 119 games. This is a guy with some injury risk. He's obviously very talented. He was the number one prospect in baseball entering last year. But I think he's the number one prospect for reasons more than just power. And given the projections, given the high home run over-under that's set, 21.5 for Roman Anthony seems a little high, so I will be on the under there for him.
So it shows up as it's a 3-star bet in my model for my props model. He projects for 18.6. The issue is you look at the StatCast page. I mean, first off, don't even go to the StatCast page. The swing selection data, he's amongst the best already in baseball. Guy's an elite eye. Near the top in walk rate already, but he swings hard because he strikes out a decent amount. Mm-hmm. And he also has very high bat speed. I believe he had the highest hard hit rate in baseball last year. I believe he also had the highest average exit velocity in baseball last year. So I see the projections and I look at the StatCast page and I'm like, what isn't adding up about these hard hit balls turning into home runs? Is he just hitting everything?
It's got to be like a launch angle thing, right? Like he hits line drives instead of fly balls, which is obviously fine. You're a very valuable player. That's why I fade you in the home run market. Yeah,
I think my concern is kind of what we discussed with James Wood of like the skills are there. Does he just figure out the launch angle thing and go to 30, right? So possible. I would almost. While I agree completely on the under, that the under is the bet if you're going to bet the over-under, if you like the over, do not bet the over, bet a 30-plus milestone prop.
Yeah.
Yes. Like go with a complete change in approach that like leads to a big breakout. And when I say best ways to bet guys, that's like the tail outcome for Anthony. It's not like, if he's going to go over, it's, 55% of the time and the market's giving you 50%. No, he's going over at a very small percentage. But when he goes over, it's probably because he goes way over because something drastic changed. So agree on the bet. The StatCast page scares the absolute crap out of me, and the talent scares me as well. And I don't think I ultimately fired on it just because I have like 20 different home run over-unders that showed up as potential edges. And there's going to be more. I alluded to this yesterday on the WBC pod, but another book dropped more props that I like ran my numbers against. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to have to fire 10 more bets at, 8% plus edges, but they're all there. But yeah, I completely agree. The model makes this a 6% edge for Anthony under 20.5. So agreed. It just scares me based on the StatCast page.
DraftKings is strange about what markets on those milestones they throw players in. You can get Roman Anthony 25 plus home runs at plus 210, but then and 35 plus home runs at plus 750, but they don't have him listed for 30 plus.
I make his 30 plus. You know what's interesting? I make his 30 plus line. Again, I said there's a big edge on his under, right? I make his 30 plus line plus 603. The odds are, I believe, plus 600. So you answered my question there just looking at the odds and the escalators. Like the market says 30 plus is fair value, but the under is way value, right?
Yeah. 40 plus is 10 to 1, which seems way too low.
Yeah, I make that like 40 to 1.
obviously huge variance player could go, he could become an MVP candidate this year, but
immediately.
And he could hit 30 plus home runs easily. Just the projections, everything we've seen of him so far.
You know what he reminds me of actually? When the USA won the WBC, Christian Yelich was slotted on a great team. A young Christian Yelich was slotted third in the middle of a great lineup by, I can't remember who was it Jim Leland managing the team?
That sounds right.
And immediately, I think it was the next year, I think 2018, so not 2017, but 1 year later, Yelich turned into an MVP. I think there's something about being around these great players, but also the manager of that team seeing you around all these great players and him being like, oh, this guy is the same as the others. Look to see where Roman Anthony is hitting in the USA lineup. I think he's going to start for Team USA. Look to see how high he hits and look to see how he performs in the WBC. It's going to be anecdotal because it's only going to be a handful of games, but I really think it's going to speak volumes about his progression this year and the immediate.
You think he's going to start for USA? Buxton, PCA, and Judge?
He did in the lineup the other day, I believe.
Yeah, I saw that, and I wasn't sure what to make of that. He'd be starting over Buxton. Maybe they platoon him and Buxton.
I'd start Buxton. I would put PCA on the bench. I would put Roman in left field.
Yeah. Interesting player. Red Sox, interesting team. Again, couldn't get there with a lot of these team-specific bets. Roman Anthony, that's my one bet. And also, you mentioned Sonny Gray. That's yet another example of an org targeting a player and you kind of raising an eyebrow a little bit because they've got really interesting pitching development there in Boston, and they're bringing in Sonny Gray. The big question with Sonny Gray is just health. If he
was the Sonny Gray and Contreras trade separate trades, or was that one trade?
Those were separate trades, I believe. The Cardinals and
with their old GM with Chaim Bloom.
Yeah, no, Sonny Gray was traded for Brandon Clark and Dick Fitz, and Contreras was traded for great radio. Yoiker Fajardo and Hunter Dobbins.
Yeah, I just found that interesting that that's their former GM making two different trades for guys he may have drafted / signed.
Yeah, you see that from time to time. Guys, absolutely. When Friedman went to LA, they made a lot of deals with the Rays, stuff like that. But yeah, so the Red Sox, again, this is a very top-heavy division. By the way, while you were talking these projections, I pulled up Pacoda. They have upgraded the Red Sox a little bit since those numbers last got pulled. They have them at 82.6 now, but they have the Rays finishing in last place at 81.4. They have all five teams finishing above 500 in this incredibly stacked
division. Not happened, I believe, in the modern divisional era. I don't think we've had a division where all five teams finished above 500. I think we had 1 year where the fifth team finished at 80 wins, but I don't think we've had a year where all five finished at 500 or better. It's
hard. I mean, it's hard to get there. If there's going to be four good teams, they face each other however many times they face each other nowadays, one of them's going to end up tanking.
I also don't think we've had a year where 4 playoff teams came from the same division yet, since the 3 wild card. This could be the year. The AL East could do it this year.
I think you're right about that. All right, let's move on.
And if you look at public odds, they're all higher than 50%, the first 4 teams in this division. So based on public projections, it's expected that this would be the year that the AL East pulls it off. It's still, we'll see if it ends up playing out that way. But I think there's a real possibility the AL ends up getting all 3 wildcards from the AL. Or the AL East ends up getting all 3 AL wildcards.
Yeah, it'll just come down to really the AL West. We'll talk about those teams with the behind the Mariners with the Rangers and Astros and what they're going to do. Let's get to the 4th team in this division. One of the more active off seasons as well, the Baltimore Orioles. Plus 425 to win the AL East. Win total of 85.5. Obviously, one of last year's biggest underachievers, 75 wins with a Pythag of 70 wins. So they actually overachieved to get to those 75 wins. Public range this year is sitting around 82 to 86. Their big splash move, obviously, was signing Pete Alonso away from the New York Mets. They added a lot of depth to their rotation. They said, can we make an entire rotation out of number 3 starters, basically, is what they said, which is actually an upgrade from last year's, which is let's make an entire rotation out of number 5 starters. They added Chris Bassett, Ryan Helsley to the bullpen, Shane Baz, Taylor Ward in a trade with the Angels, a really interesting trade. Just a week or so ago, they traded for Blaze Alexander from the Diamondbacks. Andrew Kittredge, they got back from the Cubs. And Leody Tavares, they added right at the beginning of the offseason. They subtracted Grayson Rodriguez. They traded him to the Angels for Taylor Ward. Jorge Mateo's gone. My favorite pitcher in baseball, Tomoyuki Sugano, is gone to better places. Gary Sanchez is gone. Cade Stroud is also gone. This is my fade team in the AL East, and it's kind of, to me, this is a team that could win 75 games again. And if everything breaks right, they could win 95 games. Like, this is the most high variance team in the division. I feel like most of these teams have a set ceiling and a set floor, whereas the Orioles, it's more drastic than that. And I'm going to ebb on the side of fading them, mostly because I like the Blue Jays so much, mostly because we know what the Yankees' floor is, and mostly because the Red Sox have a relatively high floor. Love Gunnar Henderson, obviously potential MVP candidate this year. We haven't seen a lot of these young guys hit. Kobe Mayo, is he ever going to hit? Dylan Beavers, they're going to give a lot of run this year. Still have relative youth in Colton Cowser. Sammy Basayo is going to be really interesting this year. I know he got injured in spring training the other day. I think it ended up not being a big deal. And then the rotation, I mentioned Trevor Rogers, a huge breakout last year. Can he replicate it? Kyle Bradish, Chris Bassett, Shane Baz. They still have Zach Eflin, who they brought back. And then my guy, Dean Kramer. And then a bullpen that's mostly the same as last year with the addition of Helsley there in the back end. They're going to start the year with Jackson Holliday on the IL. Jordan Westberg might be missing the year, it sounds like. He tore his elbow ligament. Felix Bautista, I don't know if they are going to expect anything from him this year. They still have some minor league depth, but it's starting to fizzle out a little bit. Enrique Bradfield Jr. is probably the most interesting name there. I feel like we've mostly given up on Heston Kierstead. He's 27 at this point. I'm low on the Orioles, and it's nothing. It's, again, like I could eat crow easily if everything breaks right with this team. I feel like the same about this Orioles team as I felt about last year's Tigers team, and I ate crow on the Tigers. I just thought there was a lot of high variance, and if everything broke right, they'd be great, but I didn't expect everything to break right. I'm going to say the same thing about the Orioles this year. Down on them. Are we in agreement? Is this our first disagreement? Where are you at on Baltimore?
No, I think you nailed it. I think your analysis is dead on. If you're looking at my projection, the public projection, it's the most down that the win total projections are relative to any of the teams in this division, but still only 2 wins south, 85.5 listed total. I'm at 83.6. Composite projections at 83.8. So we both are a little bit lower on this team in the market, but no real value on their win total under, no real value on their odds to make or miss the playoffs. I agree. I think they have a very wide range of outcomes. The one bet I like here is Gunnar Henderson AL MVP. I make him closer to 14-1. You can get as high as about 20-1. 2 years ago, he posted at 890 OPS at shortstop, which is generally good enough to be in contention for the award. Had some regression last year. I think if they're in contention this year, it's because Gunnar re-steps up to where he was previously. And, even if Pete Alonso hits 45 home runs, Pete's defense at first base, Pete's general contributions at first base don't generally permit him to accumulate a high wins above replacement total. Never bet Pete Alonso for MVP. He would need to hit like 60 home runs to be in consideration for that. He just does not do enough otherwise, other than the long ball. But Gunnar's shortstop adjustment, Gunnar's offensive contributions do make him a legitimate MVP candidate. And as a result, I would probably take him down to about 17-1, 16-1 for AL MVP. The other bet my model liked is Ryan Helsley's saves ladder, 30 plus saves. I took it 155, make that closer to 125. And then 40 plus saves, I didn't bet it. I make that about plus 430. You can get as high as plus 650. I didn't bet it because he was tipping pitches last year. And I'm worried that there could be some guys in this bullpen who ultimately vulture him, Keegan Aiken chief among them, because I think that they will be happy to go to Aiken in save situations where there's primarily left-handed bats to focus on. We've also seen Yennier Cano close for them in the past. So even though Helsley's starting the season with the role, even though I think he could potentially get to 30-plus saves if he holds on to the role, I think 40 saves, one, you're going to need the Orioles to be better than any 5-win team in order to clear that, but two, you would need Helsley to hold on to the role for the entire year. And I think there's enough guys who could either vulture him or supplant him as Baltimore's closer. So not a ton of betting takes for me on this team, and agree completely with your analysis, Collin. I do think the Holiday injury, the Westberg injury, Kyle Bradish returning from Tommy John, or at least he did last year. We'll see how much length he's able to give them this year. Still a very young core, still an interesting team. Dylan Beavers, we'll see what he can do in terms of his contributions this season, because it looked like he could be a potential guy when he came up last year. But what does Adley give them this year? Adley's lack of progression, Adley's regression, Adley's collapse after his rookie year has been one of the most stunning developments, I would say, in recent prospect memory.
He was someone I was targeting.
He was a surefire top catcher in the league. Yep. And now I'm not even sure if he's the best catcher on the team.
Yep. He was someone I was targeting in MVP preseason odds as recently as 2 years ago.
Sure.
There are a couple of dart throws that I like on this team. Most of these are just kind of leans or kind of keep an eye on. They do have two of the top 7 or 8 AL Rookie of the Year candidates in Basayo and Beavers. I actually think Beavers is the underrated one there. Mm-hmm. Basayo, the injury risk, the playing time confusion. He's at 12-1, whereas Beavers is up at around 17-1. So I do lean toward giving Beavers a stab there in the AL Rookie of the Year market. There are other long shots that I like more than him. I would have liked to get Beavers in the 20 to 25-1 range. If you can find him there, I would definitely fire on that. And then, we talked about this in our NL East pod, how, you identify guys that you're going to look to target in the upcoming season during the winter and toward the end of the 2025 season. And I was like, well, Bradish is like a stealth Cy Young guy. If everything breaks right, he actually looked great in his mini return last year. He made 6 starts. He threw 32 innings and had 47 strikeouts against 10 walks. He was great. He's 40-1 in that range for AL Cy Young. I want to get there. I wish he was longer than 50-1. But again, he's someone, keep an eye on those odds as they move, especially early April. You see some overreactions to performances.
He's not going to add 140 innings year over year. It's just not.
It seems unlikely, doesn't it?
He can add 100, but he's not adding 140.
Yeah. He topped out at 168.
Scooble is actually the example, because Scooble did it.
Yeah.
We forget this. Skubal went from
he was
80
the
to
most
192.
injury prone pitch. Yeah, he was so injury prone. He was a guy who was like, oh yeah, if he can just stay on the mound, and now he's Mr. Workhorse. You know,
He had Tommy John, came back through 80 innings, and then in 2024, the 80 innings were great. You're like, can this guy, can he throw 170? Can he add 90 innings? He did. He added 100. Yeah. So he added 110. But I think that's like the max you can add. I think you can add 100, 110. Adding 140 is too much. Reddish is not getting to 170. And if you look at my awards article, 170 has been the minimum that you need. 168, I think, is the lowest.
I was going to say 162 just so you qualify for the ERA title.
Yeah,
it's probably the lowest.
You need 160. You really need 170 for your WAR to be in the top 3 to be in consideration. That's where Sale was. Sale was right around 170. That's where Blake Snell was when he won his. He was right around 170. You need to get to 170, and going from 30 to 170 is basically impossible, unfortunately.
So he threw, if you include his minor leagues, which you probably shouldn't, he threw 54 innings last year. So it's a little more optimistic there.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, 32 innings at the major league level last year. He would need to essentially add exactly 130 major.
And then
if
they view themselves as a playoff team, then he's getting near the end of the year, and they're like, we need to save his arm for the playoffs, right? So then you start pulling back on that.
He's someone that
29.5% strikeout minus walk rate last year. He's there talent wise. I just don't think he gets the innings.
And if he emerges, I joked at the beginning of this section about the Orioles building their entire rotation out of number 3 starters. If Bradish is a number 1, if he's an ace, that changes the entire trajectory of this roster because they have a ton of dudes who can throw innings. They just don't have any super reliable guys unless Bradish emerges as that. So yeah, I was a little disappointed to see him in the 40 to 1 range. If it was in the 50 to 65 to 1 range, I'd be firing on him as a dart throw. So I'll be keeping an eye on those odds. I'll add it as a lean for tracking purposes. We'll be tracking all these bets.
I think for betting game by game purposes though, at the start of the year, treat him as an ace. I think he's an ace. It's just I don't think he pitches 30 starts.
Mm-hmm. The Skubal corollary is interesting. Obviously that's like the exception to the rule. Like you can't expect every guy to be able to follow the Skubal path, but that's really
I hit Skubal. He's in my awards article from pre-2024, and I discussed the innings thing specifically. I was like, he's talented, but I don't know if increasing 90 innings is realistic. But he did it. But I think that's also an outlier case.
Yeah. And also, Skubal did it at a younger age. Like Skubal and Bradish are exactly the same age, and Skubal made this ascent, 3 years ago or whatever. Whereas Bradish is now doing it in a year where he'll turn 30 at the end of this season.
Skubal's also like a horse. If you've seen him physically, just an absolute thoroughbred, 6'3", 240.
His thighs and his ass are
monster. Bradish a little bit smaller, so I don't know physically if he can handle the workload either. Skubal's proving.
Bradish is listed at 6'3", 215 on BR, and Skubal's
not quite as thick. Thick with 1 C, not 2.
Yeah,
Skubal's got the second C.
All right, so that's where we're at on the Orioles. Let's get to the
I didn't think we'd be talking about Tarik Skubal's ass on this podcast.
Tarik Skubal's ass on the AL East preview. Love it. All right, the potential cellar dwellers in this division, but I feel like the most confounding team by public projections in the history of public projections. The Tampa Bay Rays bringing up the rear here, 25 to 1 to win the AL East. I love this. We get 180, 250, 320, 425, and then 25 to 1 on the Rays. You'd think they were just coming off a 120 loss season. No, they went 77 and 85. They had a better record than the Orioles did last year. Win total this year set at 77.5. Very high for a projected last place team. Again, as I said, last year they won 77. Their PyThag was 84, so they were an unlucky team last year. They made a lot of moves this offseason, a lot of very Raysian moves. I think they were involved in like 3 different 3-team trades where they just kind of inserted themselves in to pluck a piece out. They got Steven Matz. They're going to convert him to starting pitcher, which that's... If it were any org but the Rays, I'd say that's not going to work. And it's the Rays, and I'm like, interesting. Nick Martinez. They also got a swingman from Cincinnati, Gavin Lux. Ben Williamson, Cedric Mullins, Jacob Melton, and Jake Fraley are all added to the Rays roster. They lost mostly via trade Brandon Lau, Shane Baz, Josh Lowe, Pete Fairbanks, Jake Mangum, Mason Montgomery, Adrian Hauser, Christopher Morel, Cameron Misner. I feel like every single year that we have previewed MLB together, I've looked at the Rays and I've just said, I don't know. I don't freaking know with this team. But I feel like you have some strong feelings on this roster this year.
I did. The math certainly does. I don't know if looking at the actual roster and the names, if I feel like as confident in betting on. I mean, listen, they still have Taylor Wars at shortstop. Like, I need Taylor Walls to get out of there. And please,
Carson Williams. Carson Williams needs to be up today.
Like, if you're a serious baseball team, how is Carson Williams not at least threatening to overtake Taylor Walls in spring training? You need 5 regulars, 6 regulars who you're not going to platoon, and they're planning on platooning 3 of their spots. Ben Williamson, Johnny DeLuca, Justin Henry Malloy are presumably going to take over for Gavin Lux, Jake Fraley, maybe Chandler Simpson against left-handed pitching. So you need 6 regulars, and one of those regulars should not be Taylor Walls, in my opinion, with his career 550 OPS when you have Carson Williams, who I believe has averaged like 30 homers and 36 steals per season in the minor leagues, or at least per 162 games in the minor leagues. He's put up 3 consecutive 2020 seasons. He very much has contact issues and potential contact issues, but the ceiling relative to Taylor Walls is just so much higher. I like this team to go over. I make them 81.4. The composite projection has them at 80.3. Their win total, when I bet it, was 76.5. I like it probably up to 78.5. And they also underachieved by 7 wins last year, both in terms of Pythag and base runs. 77 actual wins, 84 Pythag, 84 base runs. This team should be better than the team that they put on the field last year. Shane McClanahan returning to the fold, full season of Drew Rasmussen. I've always been a pro Nick Martinez better and supporter. And Steven Matz, I joke about it. The fact that Steven Matz has outlasted Matt Harvey, Noah Syndergaard, to a degree, Jacob DeGrom, though DeGrom definitely.
Zach Wheeler, broke down a little bit last year.
Wheeler broke down last year. I mean, Matz has pitched in the bullpen a lot, but Matz was the guy among those 5 who, when they all came up together, Matz was the one who was unable to stay healthy.
Yep.
So I just find that funny, his career progression, but I kind of trust the Rays. I mean, Matz got really good as a reliever.
Yeah.
I trust the Rays sticking him in their starting rotation. This team always knows what it's doing.
They did that with someone else recently, right? I'm trying to think. They had another
converted reliever.
Yeah, and I can't remember who it was.
I know. I was thinking the same exact thing as you. Like they did.
I think I might be misconstruing just when they signed Zach Eflin, and he not that Zach Eflin was a reliever, but it was just like, oh, the Rays are signing a starting pitcher. They're going to turn him around, and they did with Eflin. Maybe that's what I'm confusing.
I think I might be as well. I think we might be thinking about the same thing, just because the Rays don't sign anybody. And when they sign somebody, it seems to be a pitcher for like decent money. Did they have Pivetta at one point too, or was it just Eflin? I feel like it was just Eflin.
I don't recall them ever having Pivetta.
No, they didn't have Pivetta. For some reason in my mind, Eflin and Pivetta are like...
Are we thinking of Littell? Littell was a reliever in Minnesota, and he was starting for Tampa.
And then they ended up trading him for something, right?
Yeah, and he's still a free agent. He got traded. They traded him to the Reds last year. Yeah.
So, I talked about the win total over. I alluded to this earlier. There is value on the Rays to make the playoffs. I put them at about plus 190. I want to see plus 190. The public projection has them at plus 311. The betting market has them at 3-1. It's a nice bet. It's a sizable edge compared to my projection. I would much, and it's not available everywhere, but I would much rather bet Kevin Cash to win Manager of the Year at 22-1, 17-1, 15-1. I make him 10-1. And you cannot sit there and tell me if the Rays win 85 games and make the playoffs in this loaded ass division that Kevin Cash is not the number 1 contender for AL Manager of the Year if the Rays make the playoffs.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be. Oh my God, the payroll. He's so good. The payroll. Think about the payroll. Yeah.
In what world? I've done the math on this. You can find it in my awards article for this season. The number 1 most correlated stat to managers winning Manager of the Year is overachieving relative to their win total.
Yeah.
So even though bettors or voters are probably not looking at preseason win totals, they know what the expectations are. They know the Rays are expected to finish last in this division and probably go 500 or worse. If the Rays win 85 games, you just cannot sit there and tell me that Kevin Cash won't be the favorite for AL Manager of the Year. So considering that, and they're also, what are they to win the division? Like 10-1, 20? I think they're about the same odds as his Manager of the Year odds to win the division. They're 30-1, 25-1. I don't think he needs to do that to win Manager of the Year. I just think he needs to make the playoffs. Betting market says it's 3-1. I'm telling you it's 2-1. They're giving you 22-1 on Cash for Manager of the Year. I think that 10-1 projection is conservative. I think it should be even closer to their playoff projection. Now, who beats them? Who beats him? If they make the wild card, maybe the Mariners winning 110 games and Dan Wilson like stealing it as a result.
What if the White Sox win 75 games?
Sure. If the White Sox make the wild card too, if the Rays and White Sox make the wild card, maybe Cash doesn't win it. If the Oakland A's, oh no, I said Oakland.
Say a fact.
First slip up of the season. I'm so sorry. 4th.
Mark it down, Eddie, our producer. Our first Oakland slip up.
My fun fact for Oakland today is that they're going to miss out on having multiple-time MVP Nick Kurtz in their lineup because he will be playing in Las Vegas by that point, hitting 50 home runs a year in the thin air of Las Vegas. That's what's really going to hurt is when you send this amazing offense to Las Vegas and let them play in the high humidity, and the offense just goes absolutely nuts. So apologize to.
I had you at plus 400 to make the first Oakland slip up. I was like minus 250.
I've been so careful. I've said A's multiple times already on podcasts this season. I've been so careful and I've not said it. And I really regret that it came at the end of an AL East pod, not even at the AL West pod. But the point is, unless a team like the A's or the White Sox also make the playoffs in the same year that the Rays managed to make the playoffs, Kevin Cash is winning Manager of the Year. So 22-1. Again, I make it 10-1. I would so much rather bet that than betting their divisional odds at 3-1. And that's why I have not bet their divisional odds or their playoff odds at 3-1. I just think Cash is such a better bet for those purposes. Now, staying in terms of the prop market and other props I really like for this team, again, win total over 76.5 up to 78.5. Maybe my favorite win total bet for this division. Chandler Simpson to be a big contributor in the stolen base market this year. I believe he finished second last year, 44 stolen bases in 109 games. That was the 65 steal pace. He also strikes out less than 10% of the time, and he is the fastest home to first time in the StatCast era, which means he's probably the fastest ever running home to first. 3.97 seconds home to first for left-handed Chandler Simpson. But I think the bigger fact, and again, this is in my player stat leader article. I believe I'll just pull it up here so we can compare side by side. Again, Chandler Simpson knows the type of player he is, striking out less than 10% of the time. You'll see defenses play him a little bit differently this year, probably try to take away the weak contact stuff. Billy Hamilton struck out 22% of the time in his career. It's basically like if you gave Billy Hamilton half the strikeout rate and then stuck him back in the modern era. I do think Chandler Simpson has a really high floor, assuming he's going to be playing every day against right-handed pitching. 40 plus steals, I make minus 170. You can bet that at minus 105. That's a 12% edge. That's probably the best edge in the stolen base market. But 50 plus steals, I make plus 260. You can bet him at plus 310. And I think that's a better bet than his steals leader market, but maybe it's not. I make steals leader plus 450, and you can get steals leader at 5-1. So again, the 50 plus steals is plus 310. The stolen base leader is plus 500. He's going to need 50 plus in order to lead the league very likely this year. I think, last year we saw 44 or 49 lead the league is going to be a little bit of an outlier in the current era of the pitch clock. And we've seen stolen bases increase with the new rules as well, the bigger bases. So Chandler Simpson to be the stolen base leader, but then also his escalator props in addition to the Rays win total over and Kevin Cash to win Manager of the Year. A number of those bets are probably my favorite bets within this division.
Yeah, the Simpson thing is interesting. The thing that I was always low on him about is I just didn't think he would hit enough to be able to get those stolen base totals, but he hit really well last year, and the projections are bullish on him this year. Like Pacoda has him at where is it? I just brought it up. A 101 DRC plus in 508 plate appearances, and they have him at 49 stolen bases, and that's in 508 plate appearances. You look at some of FanGraph's projection systems, like Zips is the highest. Zips has him playing 131 games and stealing 51. So yeah, it's about playing time with the platoon. He's obviously the strong side of the platoon potentially, and then just him hitting enough. He doesn't strike out, but he's still got to get on base, to steal the bases. And I think that he's got a chance to do that.
And the Rays are probably going to keep running a ton, especially if Carson Williams comes up. That's how they need to produce runs. The larger point too, I didn't mention it. They're going back to the Trop. I thought playing outdoors in Steinbrenner Field, a higher variance environment, more run scoring, I thought that hurt them last year. And again, they underachieved by 7 wins, both in terms of Pythag and base runs. They should have won closer to 84 games. You're sticking them back in the Trop. They're the most profitable home underdog in the history of the Action Labs database. They overperform at home every year. 1, because they're good at home, but 2, because the teams in their division are very public teams. The Yankees, the Red Sox, like teams that are always going to attract public betting attention that sort of inflate the Rays line as home dogs. But you can anticipate that we will be betting on Tampa Bay a bunch at plus money at home this year against their division rivals.
Yeah, I don't have a lot on the Rays other than what you said. The only a lesser extreme than we just talked about with Bradish, someone I'll be paying close attention to early in the year is Shane McClanahan. He's like 70-1 for AL Cy Young. The difference is we literally haven't seen McClanahan since 2023. Bradish, we got the cup of coffee. Even in the minor leagues, I was just looking out of curiosity. He threw 3 innings in the minors last year. McClanahan did in rehabs in Durham and in the FCL. So he's someone who I'm just going to be watching his first couple starts really closely, because if he is anywhere near where he was pre-injury, that's a stealth Cy Young candidate. I don't expect it, but given where his odds are, I'll be watching it closely and potentially hammering if his stuff looks anywhere near what it was before he got hurt.
Yeah, just again, the innings thing, like it's almost impossible to go from 0 to 170.
Yeah,
let alone 35 to 170. So I'm probably out on any awards bets for him, but certainly like
game to game,
we'll be treating him as an ace. Yeah, probably treating him as an ace from the start of the year. We'll see if I downgrade him from there. British, I'm comfortably treating as an ace. McClanahan, I'm more skeptically or tepidly treating him as an ace.
All right, we're going to give out our favorite bets from a couple of these categories. But before we do that, and before we wrap up, with Major League Baseball right around the corner, now is the perfect time to get yourself an Action Pro account. Get real-time pick alerts from experts like Sean Zerillo, also access to Sean Kerner's strikeout prop projections, and much, much more. Right now, new subscribers can get $20 off a year of Action Pro at actionnetwork.com/pro. Use promo code POD20. That's promo code POD20 for $20 off an entire year. So you'll be covered for March Madness, for the rest of this NBA season, the upcoming MLB season, of course, plus much more, next college football season and NFL seasons, all the way through the next Super Bowl and up to right now, because that's how a year works. So don't wait. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro right now. Use promo code POD20 to get $20 off a year of Action Pro. All right, Sean, before we get out of here, we've gone through all 5 AL East teams. From a win total perspective, what would you say is your favorite bet out of the AL East? I know you don't have a lot of really strong takes on this division, but if you had to pick a favorite one, where would we be going here?
Yeah, the Yankees under moved from 92.5 to 90.5, so we're going to give out the Rays over 70. We'll call it 76.5 is minus 120 at Caesars. You can get some 77.5s at plus money. I said I'm good with it all the way up to 78.5. So I would probably take 76.5 minus 120 is basically the same as 77.5 even money. So I think either of those I'm good with. I can call it 77 or 77.5.
I'll be going with the Blue Jays win total over for all the reasons that I mentioned. I like them over 88.5 wins. I think this is a 90-win team. I think the strength of this division means that I feel much more comfortable doing that at, around even odds than I do betting them plus money to win the division in case the Yankees or the Red Sox or whomever, the high variance Orioles sneak up and relegate them to a wild card team. So Blue Jays over 88.5 wins is my favorite win total bet. All right, player props, stat leaders, awards bets. Sean, what's your favorite out of this division?
There's a number that I really like here, so I'm going to try to just limit it to 3, even though I discussed all of these. I discussed multiple ways you can ladder these, but I do want to mention all three of these names because I really like these three quite a bit. We'll give out Yasevich over 200 plus Ks or to get 200 plus Ks. Again, I saw that 9-1 at two different books. I make that plus 366. I think his usage is being a little bit underrated. I like Jarren Duran to get 150 and 160 plus hits. I make those plus 154 and plus 300, like both of those together. And then finally, the Chandler Simpson stolen base ladder or the stolen base leader ladder. The 50 plus is plus 310. I make that plus 260. The stolen base leader is plus 500. I make that about plus 450. So Simpson, Duran, and Yasevich, my favorite guys to target in the AL East. But as I discussed, Kevin Gausman, Dylan Cease, there's other bets here that I think are highly actionable. Quite a number of props in this division. If I'm giving out one award, it might be Gunnar Henderson, but there's another AL MVP candidate I prefer.
Yeah, for my stat leader bet, I like I considered throwing Beavers in here for Rookie of the Year, but I'd say my favorite one is Roman Anthony under 21.5 home runs. We talked about that. It's the player version of my Orioles take where there's just super high variance. There's not high variance in Roman Anthony's performance in general. There's high variance in his power performance, but I'm going to stick with the projections here. Go under 21.5 home runs. All right, for the division, Zerillo, whether it's division title, miss playoffs, I don't think you had a ton here from any of these five teams, but is there one along those lines that you would say is your favorite?
Yeah, I make the Rays 11.5 to 1, about plus 1,200 to win the division. I said last year, and I felt very dumb, I said last year that there was value on the Toronto Blue Jays to win the division about this time of year. I think they were 10 to 1. I never bet it, and I really regret it. There is very much divisional value on the Rays. Obviously, at 25 to 1, 30 to 1, compared to my number at 12 to 1, I'm much more skeptical about this team maybe winning their division. But as a result, that Kevin Cash Manager of the Year bet, man, 22 to 1, 20 to 1, 15 to 1, whatever you want to call it. I think it's the best way to bet the Tampa Bay Rays if you think they're making the playoffs, because the odds relative to their actual listed playoff odds are so disparate. And if they make the playoffs, Kevin Cash is winning, unless, the A's or the White Sox make it too.
That is a very, very Jim Turvey ass bet. And I love that. I love those bets where it's basically you're betting on the Rays to make the playoffs, but you're betting it at a better number by betting on this thing that is likely correlated.
7 times the odds. Yeah, yes. Exactly.
My best bet from that category is just, I don't even think I mentioned it when we talked about this team, but I'm betting the Orioles to miss the playoffs. It's close to a coin flip, minus 105. If you can get plus 100 out there, even better. But that's the team in this division I'm most down on. So Orioles to miss the playoffs from me. And that will do it for our AL East preview and for this episode of Payoff Pitch. Please make sure to download the free award-winning Action Network app to follow all our action experts and so you can track your bets on your own. Use promo code POD20 for $20 off an annual subscription right now at actionnetwork.com/pro. And one final reminder, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to catch all our division previews here on Payoff Pitch all month long and into the regular season. We'll be back all month long, again, as I mentioned, with we've done the NL East already. I'm not sure when these are posting, but we've recorded the NL East already. This is the AL East. We'll have all the 4 other divisions. We'll have futures. We'll have long shots all the way up till opening day. For Sean Zerillo, I'm Collin Whitchurch. Thanks for tuning in to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. And we'll see you next time.